If you know, or if you think you know, put an answer in the chat. I see a couple of right answers. Anyone else want to get their last minute guess in? Hint, it was incorporated in the 1840s. It's been around a while. All right. Well, the answer is Forest Grove. And a handful of you definitely had that right. Well done.
That's super interesting. Thanks, Adam.
Sure.
Now I know how fun fact to throw around at holiday parties. Okay, cool. Let's see. I'm gonna give folks like 2 more minutes. If you're just filtering in, please share in the chat your name, pronouns, and the agency you're with. And in about a minute or so, we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks. Okay. All right. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for making the time to be here. We always appreciate your presence on a Wednesday morning. Just to go over public comment process, there's 2 different avenues for membership to provide feedback and comment on our homeless system. So you can submit a comment from the link on our HSSN webpage, or a standing public item has been added to our monthly meeting agenda. So comments are limited to 2 comments per meeting at the designated time. Each are given 2 minutes. Me and Adam will work with the county staff should the public comment process need refinement. To request to make a comment during a HSSN meeting, you can direct message your request within the Zoom meeting to Lindsay Dent, and please do that by 8:45 a.m. Include a quick topic description and the organization you represent. The first 2 requests received will be provided an opportunity to speak for 2 minutes. Additional comments can be submitted through the online public comment link, and Meredith will post those links for you all. So yeah, if you do have a public comment for today, please get it to Lindsay by 8:45. We're going to move on to program update. So Jess Larson, Homeless Services budget and funding update, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Charlie. Good morning, everyone. How's my audio? I've been having some audio trouble, so I always like to, okay, good. Nice to see you. My name is Jess Larson. I work with the team here in Washington County in our Homeless Services Division. I'm one of the assistant directors for the department. And I just so appreciate the work you do here together, collaborating, learning and sharing best practices, keeping each other informed and up to date. And I don't often get to pop in, but the staff team wanted me to pop in today with some kind of important and critical updates we've been sharing with the executive director leadership of our system, our homeless system of care, all the partners who work with us. And also we've been engaging in ongoing conversations with our Homeless Solutions Advisory Body. That's the kind of larger advisory body that shapes and guides all of the work under our homeless services system. And of course, our Board of County Commissioners. So we just really wanted to bring you all into the loop too, because you have important and critical roles and these updates can and would impact the programmatic work you lead. And we want to make sure you have that information and have the opportunity to ask any questions. So the first update is that we are going to be facing some programmatic reductions as a system of care in the upcoming program year. And that is surprising, or it may feel surprising, and it is likely to feel like a big shift because we've been growing so quickly for the last 3.5 years. And what we are seeing is that the program growth was sort of like trending below the revenue line, and now we've grown above the revenue line from these new wonderful homeless services resources from SHS, and we need to sort of level out, dip back down and level out so that we're not overspending the resources the new taxes generate for our homeless system of care. This will look like a 10 to 15 million reduction in a program that right now is a $115 million budget. We're still waiting for new information, but the early indications from Metro and their annual forecast that they conduct indicates to us that reduction in revenue is likely to line up well with this plan of slightly reducing our programmatic work. I want to maybe take back that word slightly, because reductions never feel slight. 15 million of a $115 million program is about a 10% reduction, and 10% reductions get felt across the system. Our teams are working with the leadership and the Homeless Solutions Council to look where those reductions can be captured with the minimal impact to our partners and the services that we're provided. So our goal is to sustain the capacity of the system so that we can be responsive to the community need as much as possible, while looking for opportunities of efficiency in our programmatic work. I also don't think that this is going to be a 1-year process. I believe that we're going to have to take maybe a couple of years to get to this newer level of a sustainable system, and we'll be refining that, refining our contracts, refining our programmatic design, and maybe taking cuts in a 2-year stepped down process. More of this will be shared with you when there are actual details to be shared, but right now we just want to kind of foreshadow this. We're no longer in a state of growth in homeless services. We are now in a state of stabilization and efficiency and refinement. And sometimes that will look like programmatic reductions, but what we're looking to do is where are those reductions going to impact our programmatic work the least? I'm happy to take some questions, but I want to finish my next update. And on this conversation of the, we've been calling it system optimization or refinement, right sizing, stabilizing. I do this a lot in my Zoom camera. I think that the conversation, if you want to follow along outside of the, check-ins from your directors and program managers, you can also always attend our Solutions Council, which I believe is on the 3rd Thursday of every month. Maybe someone can correct me. I think it's the 3rd Thursday. Thank you, Mayor. I see you nodding your head. That's where that conversation is going to continue to evolve over our budgeting process this year. And then, of course, as I mentioned, I think it will take us 2 years to really get to that optimized system. So that is a reality and just kind of a nature of fast growth leveling off, right? Like, we're no longer a startup. We are a system, and now we must stabilize. The next update is more of a pending unknown that frankly has our leadership in Washington County quite concerned. You might be seeing this in the paper. You might be hearing about it from your directors. You might be following along in other places. So Metro, the regional entity that facilitated the creation of the homeless services measure, well, frankly, the 3 counties facilitated the creation, and Metro referred the measure to voters. And the reason for that is Metro has a really special electorate boundary that is able to capture a tax base that includes all urbanized parts of the 3 metro county area. So in using Metro's authority, we were able to capture revenue that would serve our homeless services programming in all 3 counties in a way we would not have been able to do on our own as individual counties. So the 3 counties went to Metro, asked them to refer this measure, and in 2020, right in the height of the pandemic, they did, and it was approved by voters for a 10-year program ending in 2031, I believe it would be. As it stands, there have been conversations underway over the last year, primarily facilitated by Metro, about a reform to this current measure. There are many components to the reform that are under discussion, and this conversation has sort of gone on for quite some time. So you may have heard of it before. We thought perhaps there would be a measure referred for the November ballot that just passed. That did not happen. Metro decided not to refer in August. And now Metro is considering referring here in the next couple of months, sometime before the February deadline, for the May primary ballot. The reform package that's being considered includes lots of components, like extending the sunset even longer, reducing the tax base, reducing who pays the tax and how much of the tax is paid, which would be a reduction in the revenue, and also expanding the uses of the revenue so that it would be potentially used for affordable housing development and even some city programming. Now, all of those things, when you add them up, would result in further and significant reductions to our homeless services programming in Washington County. And this is why our county leadership, including and the other 2 county leaderships, are very vocally and publicly opposed to the current recommendations. There is no formal package or no specific dollar amounts that have been defined publicly. When our leadership goes to these meetings, they are asked to entertain things like a $20 million reduction. So it's very significant. I want to underscore that, but none of it's been specifically written down, and the numbers seem to just continue to change. So we wanted to call this to your attention because these reductions would not be reductions that we could absorb easily. If it goes to voters in May and if voters approve it, which frankly would be likely to happen because it would be framed as a reform measure that could do more, which sounds really good to voters. Then the results of that decision would go into effect the following budget year. So not the current budget year we're planning for, but the 26-27 budget year. So we'd have a year as a system to plan for those further reductions. But it's our intent as a county, and it's our ask to you as our partners to get informed and get involved and help elevate the importance of these resources to sustain the work that we have built and is underway in Washington County, and to illustrate the potential impacts to our community if we had to reduce our programming even substantially further and might not be able to sustain some of the programs that we've built. So I want to stress that there are lots of unknowns in this conversation, and
Jess, I hate to cut you off. We're going over a bit, so could we do like
you bet
20
Charlie,
seconds?
Good job.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to stress the unknowns and invite you all to track the conversation with us and open up for questions to our team as needed. And then just also point you back to that Solutions Council meeting where both of these conversations will continue throughout the year. We're going to bring those back every month. Okay, back to you, Chair Voss. I appreciate your time management.
Much. Thank you. Super informative. Thank you for that. So we're going to move right on to Abelmar Garcia Gomez, and they will be chatting to us about the McKinney-Vento Liaison Program. Whenever you're ready, go for it.
Good morning. Is my microphone working okay? All right. So my name is Abelmar Garcia Gomez, Abel. I use él, he, him pronouns. I am one of the McKinney-Vento and foster care points of contact here for Hillsborough School District. I'm also going to introduce my partners for this presentation, Sarah and David, if you can go ahead.
Good morning. I'm Sarah Palestino. I'm one of the McKinney-Vento liaisons and a foster care point of contact in the Beaverton School District.
And I'm David Perot. I'm the McKinney-Vento liaison and foster care point of contact in Forest Grove School District.
Quick question. Are we going to be presenting ourselves? I did share the slide with, I believe, Lindsay.
I can share the slides that I received. This is Nadia, if you prefer. I wasn't sure from the response that we got if you wanted to do it.
Okay. Yeah, if you can share, that'd be great. Thank you. Oh.
Does that look right?
That's for the next presenter.
I'm sorry. I don't know then if I had the other ones.
Let me see if I can.
Let me go through the site. Okay, so the slides that I have are a PDF. Is that okay?
Okay, let me see if I can share mine. Sorry about this. Okay, it's not letting me right now. So
If I stop sharing, will it let you?
okay, there we go. Okay. Yeah, so we're going to talk today. Apologies for the delay. We're going to talk today about the McKinney-Vento programs at all the districts in the county. So oftentimes when we discuss housing hardships or housing instability, one of the demographics that's unfortunately overlooked is youth. And so McKinney-Vento works to support that demographic specifically. We work through the McKinney-Vento Act, which is a federal law that provides supports for any student and family experiencing housing instability. The main goal of the McKinney-Vento Act is to make sure that the student or child has educational stability, regardless of what's happening in their personal life. To that end, some of the supports that we provide include immediate school enrollment, transportation assistance, and other resources.
Beaverton School District developed a video that we share with parents, district staff, students. Anyone can really watch this and learn a little bit more about the McKinney-Vento program. Abel's going to hit play on there for us. Can you turn up the volume on that, Abel?
Just interjecting really quick. I know technology and tech issues are a thing all of the time, and I think that this HSSN community here is familiar with that, at least when I try to share presentations. So I think if you stop sharing and go back to your share, there should be a little checkbox option right before you share your presentation about sharing the audio as well.
I'm going to put the link to our website where you
Yeah,
can
I'm
find
not,
the video online as well.
not seeing the slide, so we can just move on to the
Yeah.
next slide. There we go. Yeah, so McKinney-Vento Services supports any student that's lacking fixed, adequate, or regular housing. And so to that end, our definitions of housing instability are a little bit different from, for example, HUD's definition of homelessness. So what this looks like is the most common example we see is families that are doubled up due to loss of housing or economic hardship. We have a lot of families that are staying in hotels, motels, families that stay in emergency shelters. And also, we do have a couple of families that are, for example, fully unsheltered, so living in their cars. We've had families staying in tents. And also substandard is a qualification that we look into. So maybe they do have an apartment that they are on the lease on, but there's heavy mold damage or water damage, rotted wood, lack of electricity, that kind of situation too. And so, like I mentioned before, our main goal is to keep those students in school. And so we provide immediate enrollment regardless of lack of documentation, like immunizations, for example. We also provide services like free school meals, transportation to and from school, even if they move out of the school boundary. And with those documents that they might be missing, we'll provide support in accessing those. So many of the McKinney-Vento liaisons in the county also act as foster care points of contact. Foster care is a little bit different than McKinney-Vento, but we do also provide similar resources. So we do also support with transportation. We also provide things like school supplies, whatever the student needs to succeed. But all of those referrals come from ODHS directly instead of from the schools, like with McKinney-Vento.
Our departments, oh, go ahead, Abel.
Sorry. One particular subgroup that we work with in McKinney-Vento are unaccompanied houseless youth. These are students, could be in any of the categories for McKinney-Vento, but with the addition that they're not currently staying with a legal parent or guardian. So for example, we have a lot of students that might come from other countries. Their parents are back in the country of origin, and maybe they're staying with an aunt or an uncle. And so we provide support to those students as well.
This is one of the groups that we consider to be just one of our highest risk, and we really want to encourage any unaccompanied student who's wanting to stay engaged in school connect with our liaisons. And we can help with enrollment even if they don't have a parent, or even if they're not living with a parent or legal guardian. Oftentimes youth think that they might get in trouble because of the situation that they're in, and we help remove any barrier to their school enrollment, even if they're not living with a parent or legal guardian. And then we also support with resource navigation and access to social services. Here's the McKinney-Vento data for the 2023-2024 school year by school district. And it breaks it down by living situation. So when we report our numbers to the state, to the Oregon Department of Education, we qualify our families under the 4 different categories: living doubled up, living in shelter, hotels, or unsheltered. And this is their living situation at the time of identification. We bolded the unaccompanied numbers because within those categories, there are students who are not living with a parent or legal guardian who might be unsheltered living in their car, or who might be doubled up with an aunt or an uncle. So an unaccompanied youth can be in any of those 4 categories, but they're just kind of a specific subgroup that we look at. And then our total numbers, you can see all of our counties post-COVID have seen an increase in McKinney-Vento eligible numbers. So you can see the total for last school year as well.
Yeah, so all total for the 23-24 school year, which ended in June, Washington County had well over 3,000 students identified as experiencing housing instability. I want to specify identified because there are always students that unfortunately fall under the cracks. Our McKinney-Vento referral process is based mostly through school staff. So school staff refer students. In very few cases, families self-identify and students self-identify. But for the most part, it's up to individual school staff and school districts to identify those kids and families in need.
Currently, here is the breakdown of who's currently qualified for McKinney-Vento services for the current school year. Our programs start identifying students at the beginning of the school year, and our numbers are cumulative. So we're collecting this data throughout the year. And so from the beginning of the school year through November, this is the number of students that we've served in each of our programs.
Yeah, so you can see right now our numbers are really high. Also taking into consideration the smaller communities in Washington County, like Banks and Gaston, every single school district has seen an increase in students and families experiencing housing instability, even surpassing pre-COVID numbers.
And for that question in the chat, an unaccompanied minor who's not living in the presence of a parent or legal guardian may qualify for McKinney-Vento services if they lack a fixed, regular, or adequate nighttime residence. So if we have an emancipated youth that is in stable housing, that youth would not qualify for services. When in doubt, it's always better to connect the youth to the liaison so that we can make that eligibility determination and ask different questions, because they might be, I don't know, an emancipated youth who's in their own housing, but their electricity has been shut off. At that point, their housing would be substandard. So it's better to connect the youth to the McKinney-Vento liaison so that we can ask all of the questions and we'll make that eligibility determination.
So moving on to trends, one thing that we constantly see year to year is we'll get phone calls from parents saying that they were referred to our program by somebody, and that they specifically mentioned that we would help with things like rental assistance or finding an apartment. McKinney-Vento specifically works in the educational area, and so we can't provide those types of resources. We do work hand in hand with a lot of community partners like Community Action, and so we can refer to them, but we can't do any direct housing support ourselves. Like we mentioned, we have seen a large number of families this year in particular living in substandard situations, especially at the beginning of this school year. At least in Hillsborough, we did see a lot more families that we qualified that were living out of their car. and a couple that were living out of RVs. And so those kinds of situations would qualify for McKinney-Vento services. A lot of things that we're seeing too, and this has been a couple of years now, where we've seen a lot of refugees coming into our county. This year so far, we've seen a lot of families from Venezuela in particular. But in the past, we have seen a lot more from Guatemala, at least here in Hillsborough. Sarah and David can speak about their respective districts, but in Hillsborough, we've seen a few more Somali families, and especially previous years, Ukrainian families. Yeah, but definitely right now, what we're seeing is a lot more Venezuelan families in particular. Sarah and David, I don't know if you want to interject.
Yeah, that's consistent with Beaverton. I think as things are happening around the world and folks are relocating, we see that as well. So Afghan, Venezuela, Latin American countries and also Middle Eastern countries that we also kind of see those refugee communities moving to our area. I think the particular thing to note with refugee families is that oftentimes they're being placed into a temporary living situation. So they're being placed into a motel prior to finding housing. Some of the challenges is that once the support ends from the refugee agency that's supporting them, then they find themselves in going through difficult times because they may not have had jobs set up yet or some sort of sustainable support so that their housing doesn't change or isn't at risk, or so that they're not at risk of losing their housing. So I think that's kind of the one thing to note is when our refugee families are placed into temporary situations, it causes that educational mobility for their students.
And I think in Forest Grove, I can't speak to the housed refugees situation, but as far as the unhoused, I think the majority, and they're really not that many, are unaccompanied homeless youth that have found their way up here, who need assistance.
Yeah, and going into the unaccompanied youth trends that we're seeing, we've seen a lot more youth displaced because of safety concerns with parents, and so arguments, students that identify as LGBTQ+, and because of that, they've been kicked out by relatives or whoever they're staying with. We've also seen, unfortunately, a trend, especially with those refugee students coming in. We'll see that whoever takes them in and decides to host them does so under the thought that maybe they might be financially compensated for doing so. And once they realize that no, they're not going to be financially compensated for taking somebody in, they actually have to be financially responsible for them, then they'll decide to kick that youth out. And so we as McKinney-Vento liaisons have to kind of do triage work to try to find anywhere that they can stay. We'll ask to see if they have any friends that they might be able to couch surf with. We do work with community partners as well, like Second Home and Safe Place, but Safe Place, for example, is the only youth shelter in all of Washington County, and it services all of Washington County. So it's based out of Hillsborough, but it serves Tigard, Sherwood, Beaverton, Forest Grove. And so we are kind of limited in providing supports for that demographic in particular. Just in general, also what we've seen is families struggling with accessing rental assistance due to a lot of the resources running out of funds, and the extended wait time for shelter placement for families, especially families that are, have multiple kids, can be very long. We've had families that have been on wait lists for months now. Yeah, and like I mentioned, just the increase of families who are in literal unsheltered situations. So if anybody's interested in getting more involved with the McKinney-Vento program or learning more about it, you can feel free to submit a form, informational form, or feel free to reach out to me. In addition to my work with Make an Evento, I'm also one of the on the Solutions Council, and so feel free to reach out if you have any further questions. We've presented to multiple organizations also. We've done Make an Evento presentations to Centro Cultural, Community Action. And so if your organization is interested in learning more about what Make an Evento does and how we support families, feel free to reach out. And this is the contact information for all the liaisons in Washington County. So for example, Beaverton and Hillsborough serve more than just their respective namesake cities. So for example, Hillsborough also supports the communities of North Plains and part of Cornelius. Forest Grove also supports Cornelius. Yeah, so if you ever come across a family or a student that might qualify for Make an Evento services, like Sarah said, even if you're not 100% sure, just err on the side of caution and feel free to reach out to us, and then we can make that determination.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Any questions for everybody? If you do have any question, oh, go for it.
I see a question in the chat. When is our next partner meeting? It's in January. So we have quarterly partner meetings in addition to the monthly Make an Evento meetings with just the liaisons. And those are, I think the next one is going to be held at Home Plate, which is one of our community partners. They're amazing. They're going to present next, actually. But if you want to send me an email, I'd be more than happy to give you the details and send you the calendar invite.
Great. Thank you so much. We're gonna move on here to Rebecca Quintana from Home Plate Youth Services. Rebecca, whenever you're ready.
Oh, I should probably unmute myself. Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Rebecca Quintana. I use she, her, pronouns. I work for Home Plate Youth Services, and I'm the education coordinator here. And this is a little bit about my program. So the mission of our program for education specifically, we focus on providing access for youth to school reconnection, navigating financial aid, enrolling in college or trade schools, and also providing scholarships and life skill classes. We work specifically with youth ages 12 to 24 and specialize in working with youth experiencing housing instability, but we work with like a wide range of youth from different walks of life, different life situations. Currently, our education department is only me, but thankfully I have some really great coworkers that also are a huge source of support. So some services that we offer at Home Plate for education specifically is our life skill workshops. We offer a wide array of different topics, and I listed a short list here, but we offer FAFSA application help, GED readiness workshops. We also started a new thing with PCC vocational programs where they table at drop-in and are able to answer questions directly and talk more about their programs to encourage like enrollment. We offer cooking classes, relationship goals or healthy relationships with the support of DVRC. And one thing that I'm really excited about, starting January, we partnered with Pueblo Unido and ECHO, and we'll be hosting legal immigration workshops. So very excited about that. Those will cover a wide array of subjects like accessing ECHO, general immigration proceeding information, asylum, things like that. Those workshops are more like education. They don't have like lawyers to give like legal advice or take on cases, but I'm really excited to have that information out there for the community. Our monthly calendar is posted on our social media accounts and also at our drop-in spaces. If you'd like a copy of the calendar, feel free to reach out to me. I'll have my information at the end and can send you that as well. We also started a new thing this year that we are offering $50 gift card incentives for youth attendance. To get that, they have to attend 2 of my classes and 4 of our work readiness workshops that are hosted specifically from our employment department. And that is the calendar for December. We have a relationship goals group, a cooking class. We're gonna make eggnog and Grinch cookies, which is really cool. I've never made that before. GED readiness workshop and also FAFSA application support. I believe the new application comes out this month. So if you have any youth that need that help, send them my way. We also offer scholarships at Home Plate. These are offered every year, usually around the fall, and like a limited number every year. These are available for students ages 18 to 24 who are planning to enroll or are already enrolled in a college or vocational program. This year as well, for the first time, we offered a Spanish GED scholarship for youth to attend PCC's Spanish GED program. So really, yeah, happy about that. Our scholarships don't necessarily cover or directly pay tuition, but can be used to cover smaller living expenses and are dispersed monthly. The exact amount awarded kind of depends on the youth's information that they provide. We fill out like a budget before they're approved for the scholarship, but it is up to $500 a month. The length of the scholarship is 12 months for those enrolled in a college program and around like 3 months for those enrolled in a vocational program. To qualify for this scholarship, they have to be willing to meet with me at least once a month and also be attending school or residing, spending most of their time within Washington County. They have to be fully enrolled in their program at the time that the scholarship is supposed to start, and they have to also attend at least one of our life skill classes. I also offer support in accessing different sources of financial aid. For example, if you have a youth that used to be in foster care, they might qualify for the Chafee grant. I've helped a couple students apply for that. This year too, a new thing that is offered in Oregon is the tuition-free waiver that covers or waives tuition and fees, college fees for students experiencing homelessness or housing instability. And we also can provide a letter of verification for homeless status, specifically for FAFSA. And that helps a lot because it allows students to not have to depend on parent income information in order to submit their FAFSA. I also offer one-on-one education support. This is kind of like a list of like my availability and different ways that you can connect with me. Tuesdays, 2 to 5, I can be found at our Hay House location, and that's the address right there. It's right across the street from our main building. And then Thursdays, I'm at our Hillsborough drop-in from 6 to 8. I can also meet virtually with people through Zoom, Google Meets, and also our workshops if they're education related. I'm happy to support with anything that youth need help with there. And that can be found on our monthly calendar. So this is my contact information. This is how you can get in touch with me. You can call, text, or email me. We also have a Facebook account called Home Plate Outreach Team, and that one's for youth to be able to message us, and they can just say that they want education support or they want to connect with me. My work hours are Monday through Wednesday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and then Thursdays, 12:30 to 8 p.m. We are closed Friday through Sunday, so if you send me an email during that time, I'll try to get to you as soon as I can when I come back. And then también hablo español. So if you have any youth that are Spanish speaking, I'm happy to connect with them as well. But yeah, that is all about me. Let me know if you have questions.
Thank you, Rebecca. Does anybody have questions? I'm not seeing any in the chat. Okay, let's move forward. So we have Allie Holmes, and correct me on the pronunciation of your name. I'm so sorry, but Henan Arcosas. Oh, that was so bad. I'm so sorry. Talking about short-term solutions and housing liaisons. Whenever you're ready, go for it.
Can't hear you, Allie.
How about now? I was saying somebody give me a thumbs up if they can hear me. Okay. Well, thank you. I'm Allie Holmes. I use she, her pronouns. I am part of Washington County's supportive homeless services team, and I help oversee the housing liaison program. Here with me is Haneen. Haneen, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, sure. I was having trouble to use my mouse, as sometimes Zoom does that to me, but I'm glad now I can. Can you hear me though? Great. So my name is Hanina Kasus. I am the short-term solution program specialist, and I'm part of the same team that Ali works from.
So while I'm pulling up my screen, I'm going to give a presentation here. We're just going to give you all a quick overview of the Housing Liaison Program, which is one of our access points with Washington County for folks experiencing homelessness. Excuse me, I have to talk and click buttons at the same time. Okay. So I'm going to give you all just like a quick overview of what the Housing Liaison Program is and what it does. And Hinian will jump in to kind of talk about the short-term solutions piece and how it is incorporated into the Housing Liaison Program. And I will answer any questions in the chat whenever I'm done. So the Housing Liaison Program is made up of two different kind of types of housing liaisons. We're in program year 3 for what I call the Health and Human Services or Community Corrections Liaison. So we have 8 liaisons partnered with different Washington County agencies. And those liaisons are really just there to provide the project subject matter expert advice for the folks who are seeking services from these different departments who are also experiencing homelessness. And then we also have 15 liaisons with our shelter programs. So each of our Washington County shelters has at least one liaison that works with folks who are in shelter who do not already have some kind of housing case management connection. So here's a couple of different agencies that folks work with. I think I've seen at least one of our liaisons here with us today, but we do anything from like the Developmental Disabilities Division to the Community Correction Center and Probation and Parole. And next slide. So a housing liaison, like I said, is really there to provide kind of subject matter expert partnership with the agency or shelter that they are connected with. They are also a connection point, the first connection point into our coordinated entry system. So they are also phase 1 assessors and work with folks who are accessing different services to get them referred into our coordinated entry system. They also are there to provide a connection to various different resources, housing navigation, and they can provide kind of some limited direct assistance with some flex funds that they have available to them. They're not necessarily housing case managers, but more the connection point to get folks into the system, to get them moving towards the towards housing. They are short term, so folks are enrolled with housing liaisons for about 90 days, and they work towards a housing goal in those 90 days. Housing liaisons can and do phase 1s. Phase 1s is one of the biggest things that the housing liaisons do. They also can work with the participants to create like a housing plan goal, work through barriers. They can provide a warm handoff to any other housing programs if and when they're matched to those programs. They can collaborate with the agency, with Washington County that they're embedded with, or with shelter staff to meet client needs. So they do a lot of communication back and forth with the folks that they're working with. They really kind of provide wraparound services for those mutual clients. They can provide direct services towards housing, so they can help negotiate with landlords, help with applications into housing, write accommodation letters. They can provide eviction prevention counseling, intervention, and they can provide like short-term direct services to get folks immediately housed, which is more what Haneen will talk about. So who's eligible for the program? So for the HHS and community corrections liaisons, they need to be working with one of those different departments or agencies to be referred to services, and then the staff in those agencies can refer using an agreed upon referral system to their embedded liaison. Oftentimes that looks like a Smartsheet form that like we'll say developmental disabilities staff will send a Smartsheet form to the liaison that works with them. And then they also must meet income and homelessness definitions. So they need to be population A or B. And I won't read that to you all, but if anybody is unfamiliar, let me know. And then they also need to be located in or receiving services in Washington County. And then for the shelter housing liaisons, they essentially just need to be enrolled in the shelter. I lost my mouse. Give me a second. Oh, there we go. So some additional parameters, like I mentioned, it's intended to be a short-term relationship, so 90 days. Sometimes the goal is to get people housed as quickly and as permanently as possible. So housing liaisons are able sometimes to stabilize folks or get them back into housing within those 90 days, which is fantastic. We love that. Upper limited casehold is about 30 households, but it can depend on needs. They're not long-term case managers. And then if somebody does use diversionary resources, which Janine will kind of go over a little bit more, they need to be able to kind of self-sustain within 90 days of receiving those resources. And the housing liaison program is not intended to be an emergency or street outreach service. However, we do encourage and have pathways for folks to work with emergency or especially like emergency shelter or street outreach services. We all work very closely in case conference with the different groups so that those connections are really strong. And folks are working together in the system to get folks housed. Okay, now everybody's favorite part. The housing liaisons have a small flex fund budget that they can use to kind of help people work towards their housing goals. It includes things like workforce development needs, communication needs, transportation needs, basic household sort of supplies. And they are able to kind of just use that as under their discretion. So this is just their basic, this comes with the program, and is a part of what they do each day. And then the next slide, I'm going to pass it over to Haneen, who is going to tell us about another kind of source of financial assistance that is available for the housing liaisons to use for their clients.
Thank you, Ali. There is a question in the chat. Do you want to keep all the questions toward the end?
Yeah, I can answer. Let me look at it.
Okay, do you want me to start, or like, are you going to answer the question?
Go ahead, I'll reply in a second.
Got it. Okay. So I'm going to tell you more about short-term solution, which is one of the resources and financial assistance that Housing Liaison can access and provide to their participants and households. So the definition of short-term solution, it's an intervention designed to prevent households from becoming homeless or immediately resolve their homelessness once they enter shelter or go into one of the transitional housing, or they become unsheltered. And short-term solution includes both diversionary and rapid exit strategies with the aim to ensure that the homelessness is avoided or it's as brief as possible once it happens. And it must be explored with every potential and eligible household that Housing Liaison is working with. Next slide. So as I said, that short-term solution, I'm going to talk about what it is and what it's not. Short-term solution is one of the tools and resources that Housing Liaison has and can provide to the household. And it's a system-wide intervention, and it's a diversion technique to end homelessness or make it as brief as possible. And it's person-centered creative solution where the Housing Liaison has to work with the household and find a solution that is tailored for them. And it has to be through a collaborative conversation. What it's not a program, it's a service and a tool. Like I said, I feel like I repeated myself all the time. And it's not a barrier to a shelter, so households and individuals can still access shelter and receive short-term solution assistance. And it's not a long-term solution, so it's not for everyone. If somebody needs longer time, a longer version of assistance, then short-term solution might be not the solution for them or the right tool for them. And it's also it's not a checklist or an assessment that the Housing Liaison has to go through. Next slide. So what about the short-term solution approach? The short-term solution funds, it can provide limited financial assistance to the household. Mostly it's one-time assistance throughout the year. And the Housing Liaison has to explore all other options first before they think about like approaching and utilizing short-term solution. And when they utilize the short-term solution, they have to make sure that by utilizing that, it's going to resolve their homelessness and immediately get them housed, and also make sure that they can sustain their housing on their own. And the financial assistance must be prioritized for those who do not have any other kind of resources or kind of like community support available to them other than short-term solutions, almost like a last resort for them. The next slide. There is multiple pathways that can be accessed through short-term solution and prevention pathways. Ideally, we want to like self-resolve that situation through the short-term solution conversation that the Housing Liaison can have with the household without accessing the funds. But if that was not the option for them, then we can access the short-term solution, which is one-time assistance to prevent or shorten their shelter stay or reunify them with a family member or help them to maintain their housing. And then we also have a partnership with Centro Cultural and Community Action Eviction Prevention, where the Housing Liaison can send a direct referral to them to provide eviction prevention assistance for the household that is going through an eviction situation, so they can help them to maintain their tenancy. And then one of the most famous prevention pathway, and it's always being used through short-term solution, is the move-in ready funds. And it's one-time assistance to help with security deposit and prorated rent, or sometimes it's the first month rent. So the household can actually get into housing and sustain. And again, they have to be able to sustain their housing on their own. Eligibility, it's similar to the same the eligibility criteria that Ali Holmes shared with us today, which is like 2 criteria. One of them is the homeless status and the income requirement. For the homeless status, they have to be homeless under the category A or B, which is literally homeless or fleeing DV, or at imminent risk of homelessness, where they can be they are at a situation of losing their housing within 30 days. And the new addition to the short-term solution is if they are extremely rent burdened, where they are paying more than 50% of their gross income towards utilities and rent, and they are lacking any resources and support system that can help them to obtain an alternative safe housing. And then when it comes to the income requirements, the household must be determined to be eligible if their income is at 50% area median income or below for Washington County, Oregon. Yeah, that was the end of the presentation. If you have any question about short-term solution or housing liaison program, please feel free to ask.
That was our quick. Let me stop sharing so I can see y'all's questions a little bit better. So on the who is eligible to refer clients to the housing liaison program, so they have to be somebody who is connected with one of like our partner departments, or they have to be accessing one of the Washington County shelter network shelters. So we have partnerships with different agents, different departments in the county. So like, let's use Hawthorne Walk-In Center for an example. They have a housing liaison that works within the Hawthorne Walk-In Center. He actually goes there pretty much every day, I believe. And any staff that work for Hawthorne are able to send him a referral. If one of the clients that they're working with is experiencing homelessness, they can send a referral to that liaison, and then that liaison works with that individual on their homelessness. Usually that means doing a phase 1 and getting them into the system. And then on the other side, we have shelter housing liaisons, and so everybody who comes into shelter is either working with a housing liaison or working with like a case manager if they already have housing case management. So that's that. Hope that answers that. And then individuals connect to short-term solutions through the housing liaisons. So it's a resource for the housing liaisons to use for their clients. So that is currently the only way that folks can access short-term solutions, is if they're working with a liaison. Any other questions? Well, feel free, I'll pop my email in the chat. Feel free to email me if you have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. Awesome. Okay, so we're running ahead of schedule now, so that's good. We're gonna go on to public comment, and it looks like, Lindsay, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's just Cameron, right?
That's correct.
Okay, great. And then Cameron is going to share their screen. So Cameron, whenever you're ready.
Oh, I was informed I'm not allowed to share screen. So in lieu of that,
Oh, okay.
I'm going to put all the links I would have shared screen of in the chat. So heads up, big long chat of links, and they'll be available in the meeting recap. But yes, so my name is Cameron Murphy. I work for Boys and Girls Aid, but I'm here as a committee member of the Tri-County Planning Body, and speaking to what Jess kind of ended on, is the importance of contacting your Metro Council and letting them know as they do what they do, what we do want included in that reform measure and what we don't. And so the first link is finding your Metro counselor. Washington County is split into 2 different districts. And so depending on where in Washington County, or if you don't live in Washington County, you can also like find your counselor in the other parts of the Tri-County area. If you just work here but not live here. So you could do both. The next link is the same link that Jess shared regarding the Welcome Home Coalition, who has really put in a lot of work to kind of create an easy way to contact the Metro Council president and members. The third link in the chat is the letter itself, so that you can have a pretty clear picture of what it is. Hopefully you are signing on to, because we are really asking people to contact Metro and let them know that voters will want to extend this Metro bond. They will want to increase affordable housing. And like many measures, and we see this in politics from local to federal, is they tack in other things that they also want that are not appropriate and in the best interest of voters and people in our communities. And so the last kind of Google Doc is, part of civic participation is trying to make it as accessible as possible, which isn't super easy. So the Welcome Home Coalition more or less has created a Google Doc or a Google form for you to be able to like sign that letter. That is the fourth or that's the third link in that chat. You can also go to that second link, and then there's like a call to action button where you can kind of just send your templated email to Metro Council. And then, the first link, contact your counselor directly and let them know, and you can submit testimonies for those Metro meetings. Now, Metro does a whole lot of things. Housing is just a very recent slice of what they do. And so talking about SHS is not always on their agendas. But when it is, it's important to make that effort to submit some testimony. Really, really encouraging them not to change the tax rate so that as they are wanting us to do this work for longer and do this work, expanding what it is that we do, we can't do it with less money. And so, social services is very used to the do more with less, and that is not sustainable. That is not how we continue to do the work we're all here to do. So as much as possible, I'm using my public time to encourage everyone to please just sign your name, and strength in numbers really is how community comes together and is able to make change. So again, just as a committee member, I'm here encouraging everyone to do this for yourself, do this and share this out with your coworkers, your friends, your family, everyone in the Tri-County area, so that we do our best to do more with more and tax the rich. Thanks.
Thank you, Cameron. Would you be comfortable sharing your contact information in the chat for everybody?
Sure. I'll put my email as that's the best.
Thank you so much. We didn't have any other public comments, so we can go ahead and move into general business. Liz Morris is going to talk to us about project-based voucher waitlist updates. Liz, whenever you're ready.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Liz Moore, she, her pronouns. I'm the Rental Assistance Division Manager with the Department of Housing Authority of Washington County. I'm actually coming a little bit more in the Housing Authority business today. With the Rent Assistance Division, we manage all of the federal vouchers that come through Washington County, as well as our regional programs and vouchers. And with our federal vouchers, we have many wait lists. So I'm just going to give like a quick snapshot as to the why and the what, and then talk about what we're doing right now, just so you're all aware. And I apologize, I don't have a presentation, but just going to do that quick overview and let everybody know what's going on. So with the Housing Choice Voucher, which is formerly known as Section 8 vouchers, it's been over 20 years since they changed the name, but people still reference that name from when it was initiated 50 years ago. And we have about 3,300 people receiving federal vouchers in Washington County. From our Housing Choice Voucher stock, we are putting project-based voucher allocations from that into properties across Washington County. A lot of the times project-based vouchers are added into the mix because it can make sure that that subsidy is received by somebody at a property. It's attached to the unit, unlike the Housing Choice Voucher, which is attached to the person. And it kind of helps us build that affordable housing. So it's something that is utilized for a community so we can have a lot of these affordable housing projects in the area. Right now, the Housing Authority of Washington County administers about 40 separate contracts with project-based across Washington County. Of that, we have 21 unique project-based wait lists. So for those of you who enjoy a good waitlist management, that is exactly what we get to do, both with our Housing Choice Voucher Section 8 waitlist, our public housing waitlist, and then our project-based waitlist. So just our project-based wait list, what we are doing a confirmation. It's otherwise known as a purge, and we don't really exactly love that word, but we want to confirm that people who have been on those wait lists are still interested. So as we do have available spots and we're trying to fill a unit at one of the properties, or when the properties come online, we have a really current, robust pool to pull from. Some of our wait lists opened up in 2011, 2013, when these properties came online. We've had about another 15 to 20 of them, especially with the Metro bonds in the last 5 years. So as there's 21 specific unique wait lists, one of them is a general project-based wait list that covers many properties, and 20 separate site-based wait lists. It's a lot for us to manage. So we have sent out 7,200 households who are currently on those wait list notices that they need to let us know if they're still interested in being part of that wait list. So when their name comes up, we're likely to be able to make sure that they're eligible and then get them assisted if they can. So yes, 7,200 people in the households. It was about 1,200 instances. So one person might be on 5 lists and some people are just on 1 list. So we are sending out a lot of notices. The notices are going out on the salmon sheet of paper. I know it's not for you to read. It's just that if you hear anything from any of your clients or community members that you're working with, like, hey, I got this thing from housing. What is it? That's why I'm here today, to kind of explain what's going on and what needs to happen. So with this, we are asking for people to either go onto the website, because each letter has a code, for them to be able to go into a portal and then update their address, which is great. That is a requirement and request that people always update their address. And let us know if they want to be removed, stay on all the lists, only stay on one of the lists that they're on, or they can actually complete the paperwork and send it back to us and we'll update them. So just a little bit about that. We do have a lot of folks who have identified general delivery, or when they were signing up for the wait list, it might have been through one of our service providers. So some of you might have been getting these lists, these letters from us. And what does that mean? And if you're in contact with a person, if you can connect with them and have them update the information and get it back to us, that's great. We are getting about so many folks are having return mail because they did not update their addresses. And if we have no forwarding address, we can't update it. What will happen is after December 18th, they will just be removed from the wait list. And something comes up on December 19th and they're like, hey, don't worry, they're okay. But like we just need for them to communicate with us. For everybody who are receiving a return envelope and they have a forwarding address on it, we are manually updating all of those addresses. It's been several hundred of them. And then we're resending out the letter to give everybody that extra opportunity. As people will sign up for these wait lists, it's been identified as a requirement that they do continually to update their address. It does not have to be their address, as they sometimes put their case providers or maybe a family friend who does have a stable address that can be used. That is something, and they know how to get in contact with them, that they can always do. And it's really helpful as well for people to have email addresses in the system. So if you're helping anybody with this information, that way, when we send out the notices, we were able to send out 3,000 of them with both letters and emails, and we got a lot of immediate responses. But the email system has only been in there for about 5 years. So those folks who had applied back in the early days and are only on some of those lists from 2013 or 2011, they may not have had their email address in there. So that is just something that we're going to continue and encourage as we're kind of moving that way. So right now we are that open period for people to be able to respond. I did see there was a question. I'll look at it in just one moment. And then if you can encourage people to reach out to us if they have questions. I will put my contact information, maybe not my contact information in the chat, but our general contact information for this. I'm also going to be on leave for the next week, so I don't want people emailing me and then I'm not like able to respond and you were trying to get a response really quickly. So I'll make sure we have a good contact information in there. And let me see what the question was. Okay, so if you ever have anybody who has questions about not getting codes to the portal, they can reach out to us and we can look at their information. If they did get the letter and they're not sure about the portal and they don't want to worry about that right now, but they just want to make sure they're confirmed, please have them fill out the paper and get it back to us, and we can always work on the portal piece like secondary. So that will be really helpful. Are there any other questions regarding this project? I know there's probably lots of questions around residences in general, but for this case. All right, I will, like I said, in just a moment, I'll add in some information into the chat for who to reach out to. But thank you so much for letting me come and just give you the heads up that, and already seeing that people have received these letters, so you're knowing into the why and what's going on. Appreciate all the work that you're doing. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Liz. We're going to move on to Kim Marshall, who's going to give us some updates on the Solution Council. Kim, whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Great to be here with you. So Solutions Council is having similar conversations that we heard from Jess this morning, budget conversations. We have reductions being made this year and next year, and then the big conversation with Metro reform. And Cameron did an awesome job of giving us all links to how we can reach out to the council at Metro and make sure that our voices are heard. It seems this is going to continue to move forward. And so we want to make sure that if they're going to put a ballot measure in May, that it is with the negotiations that we want, that we need in place to continue to do this good work. So we're spending a lot of time doing that. Our meetings are open, so you are welcome to join us in person or online. Our next meeting is Thursday the 19th at 2 p.m. We do have a public comment section, so if you did want to come and say anything, we would love to have you there, or just listen in to what's being discussed at the Solutions Council level and some of the priorities that are being talked about. Nadia, anything else?
I think that all sounds great. And folks can contact me if they have any questions about like joining the meeting or commenting. I can share the page again. we do post all our updates on here and recordings of the meetings. So if you want to see previous ones, or if you want to reach out with a comment, you can do that anonymously too.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you, Kim. We're going to bring it to Nadia, who's going to talk about the OEICE.
Hi, all. Hi, I'm going to do a quick screen share. So back in 2020, right before everything shut down, the board in Washington County approved or adopted rather the racial equity resolution, which created the Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Community Engagement. Because a lot of this was established during the pandemic, and we weren't quite sure how many people are even aware that this exists in Washington County, and we just wanted to share a little bit. So I'm sharing our site here where folks can reach out or look up more information if they need regarding everything from like language access to ADA compliance. I'll post it in the chat. And there's also ways to get involved through finding out more about like various boards and commissions and community participation organizations, as well as civic leaders programs. In particular, I wanted to just update everyone on our new CEIO, which is our Chief Equity and Inclusion Officer. We just hired, it's Alicia Sojourner, who will be beginning this month as our new CEIO at the OEICE. I'm sorry, there's a lot of acronyms there. And she's joining us from Vancouver, where she worked at in equity over there as well. And if you have any questions about OEICE in general, please reach out to me and I will try to help direct those questions to the appropriate contact.
Thank you, Nadia. Okay. Last but not least, turning it to Lindsay for announcements.
I do have an announcement, but I'm happy to open it to the floor. The only announcement that I had is the monthly reminders about our learning community. I like to remind folks, just in case people are interested, it is open to HSSN membership as well. It takes place on the second Wednesday of every month, typically, but from 10 a.m. until noon at the Washington Street Conference Center. And so next Wednesday's topic, we are going to receive a presentation from Nancy, who is a supervising clinician at Washington County, and they will be doing a deeper dive into motivational interviewing. So I know that can be a hot button topic. If you've ever been interested in really learning more or applying some of those principles, please feel free to come. And then I think we're opening it to whomever might have announcements. We've got about 6 minutes left. Thanks, Charlie.
Hi, everyone. I have a quick announcement. My name is Eva Polly, and I am a Housing and Community Development Specialist in the Washington County Office of Community Development. And directly following this meeting at 10 a.m., our office is going to be having a public hearing on housing and community development needs. That's part of the consolidated planning process that our office is currently doing. So we would love to see you there. And yes, and thank you, Nadia, for putting the link there in the chat. Thank you.
Any other announcements?
If there aren't other announcements, Charlie, I do want to mention that next month in January, the HSSN meeting will not take place on the first Wednesday like typical due to the New Year's holiday. So just as a reminder, agendas will also state this, but the meeting will take place January 8th, which happens to be the second Wednesday in January.
Thanks, Lindsay. Well, if there are no other announcements, I'm happy to give everybody back their time. Thank you so much for making the time here on a Wednesday morning, and I hope you enjoy the sunshine. Bye, everybody. See you next month.